Tonight I am really, I get to share with you some of my gratitude that I have been able to be a part of a lot of miracles with essential oils. And there are lots of them, so I will try to just pick a few of them. But when you share healing modalities like essential oils, you get to bring that healing into people's lives. And so, for example, one experience I had was one of my friends on my team had a spot on her arm, and it was a questionable spot, and she needed to get it removed. And one of my beloved team members, when she was inspired to share oils with her, this woman had actually already set up the appointment for removal, like the $300 appointment. And that was 10 years ago, so I'm sure that it's like more expensive now. But anyways, I digress. So she is ready and set up to remove this thing on her arm. And she comes to a class, and back then, we used to say things in our classes that the FDA doesn't like us to say. But because of what we did say back then, she felt inspired to use frankincense on that spot. And she used it a couple of times during the class. And later, a little while later, she was just doing normal chores, and she said, I felt a trickle down my arm. And she looked down to like a fly or something, and the entire thing fell off and trickled off her arm.
Oh my gosh.
She felt it falling.
Like a scab.
Like, yeah, it felt like a scab just falling off.
Wow.
Wow, huh?
And to feel when it happens too. Like, you don't always notice when that stuff just goes away.
She felt the moment. It was
that is so cool.
Meaningful, right? Like, and my team member shared that with her right in the right timing is beautiful. And I no longer believe that sharing oils with people at the right time is a coincidence. And the thing that taught me that the most was another experience that I had in Montana. I was traveling a really long ways to this class in Montana, and my dear sister-in-law was like sharing invitations around, and she was giving this invitation to someone, and the lady was about to say, oh no thanks, I don't do stuff like that. And then she got this like thud, like almost a 2x4 feeling to the head that was like, no, you need to go to that class. Like the inspiration hit her pretty intensely. So she's like, all right, apparently I am coming to your class. She comes to this class, and she actually, I think there was only 2 people there. She was like, the whole reason that I drove that far and put together this class was really for her. She had a 15 or 16-year-old daughter at the time who had just discovered that she had seizures. Like epilepsy had just developed. And for her, that meant really high doses of medications that you can't even start on the full dose, like you have to wean your way up to it. It meant that she wouldn't be taking driver's education. It meant that she had dropped out of school mostly and to figure things out in her life because she was having so many seizures a day. And because of essential oils, and we put oils on her that night, and she did not have another episode for days until she forgot her medication. So what I'm saying is she needed both. She needed her meds and she needed oils, and she was able to live a life and consider things that a teenage girl wants to consider, but had been taken away from her. Pretty serious blessing. Like in those times, and it doesn't happen all the time. Not every person I share a sample bottle with is going to be like, oh, you know, like angels singing. But those few times makes me really confirm that I'm doing what needs to be done, that I'm able to be an answer to someone's prayer. The last one that I wanted to share with you, let me get the pictures out so you can see. Sometimes people need it and I share it with them, and that is a great answer for them. Like for instance, at this one class, a gal was experiencing pain in her legs, and just because of the essential oils that I rubbed on her legs that night, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes and she's like, I'm not in pain right now, and I've been in pain for 7 years. Which is pretty, I mean, after stuff like that, you can't quit, right? I know. Ever. But when someone that you love in your own life goes through something really big, and you happen to know about oils, and you happen to have oils in your medicine cabinet, you can be the angel right there in their life that they needed. You don't even have to wait to be inspired. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my most deep-rooted, close to home situation. If you are woozy, if you don't like looking at wounds, look away, because this is a gross one. This is from my husband's burn accident. He was in an explosion a few years back, and it burnt all over his body, but left the worst burns on his leg. So I will share that around.
How soon after was this?
This was like the next day or that day in the hospital. But you can see all of these welts where the skin had bubbled up. Those are third-degree burns. He had third-degree burns over most of his leg from the sole of his foot all the way up to his knee. And because of that, he actually had skin grafts. And I feel so blessed that we had an amazing physician down in Twin Falls, a plastic surgeon, and he repaired my husband's leg. The guy in the emergency room was saying, he might not walk again. You need to go down to Salt Lake. You need to go to a burn center. Idaho doesn't have a burn center, at least we didn't back then. Now I think we have one in Idaho Falls. But anyways, we waited. We didn't feel good about that. We waited for his, to be able to fit into the rotation for this surgeon, and we had to do grafts. And those are the sites where they took the grafts from his upper leg. Those actually hurt more than the burn, because he still had feeling. And then they repaired his lower leg with those grafts and stapled them in. And my kids lovingly refer to this as Daddy's Frankenstein leg.
Oh.
Because he looked like Frankenstein. So what you can see on this wound is it's wrapped in cloth that it's yellow because it has bismuth, which is an antimicrobial metal that has been laid down on this cloth. And so because of that, we were hopeful to not receive an infection. Like, that's the biggest concern with a burn that size, is infection. The next big concern is that the skin grafts won't take. So what it means is that they don't take is that patches won't be successful, and especially on an area that large, they may fall off and have to be redone. Like, that's very common with large skin grafts, is that patches have to be redone. More skin has to be harvested. More surgeries are in the future. And for us, that was like a disastrous thought, that he wouldn't walk for months. Like, we really relied on his income. We had a tiny baby at the time. It's not like I was gonna rush back to work. So with the help of essential oils, he not only walked in half of the time that they recommended, like estimated for us, he walked in half the time. But that was actually totally finished in 8 weeks.
Wow.
So let me see if I have a picture of what it looks like when they're done. I don't, but I can tag more current pictures. But anyways, it was really serious. It was one of those like fateful moments that changed our whole life. And not only did oils help with the physical healing, and he was back to work that season, but they also helped with the emotional healing, because it takes less than 6 days to get addicted to opioids. And that's, man, I am so grateful for those suckers, because with that use of that medication, he made it through some heinous pain. But he was on them for 6 weeks, not just 6 days. And in that time, he developed a pretty nasty personality change. And that summer, even though the physical healing was over, like, that's probably the rockiest time in our marriage. Like, we were looking at, I was leaving, dude. I was like packing up. I would say that because of the essential oils that Matt used to get over that addiction, and because Deep Blue,
Polyphenols.
thank you, the polyphenols, which is the supplement, because the Deep Blue supplement came out that next year, he was able to get away from that pain and get away from the need for his medications, and it really saved our marriage. It really did. I'm super grateful.
What a blessing.
What a blessing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible to sit back and watch too. I mean, where he was, and I mean, my husband would go and just talk with him, and he was just such a mess.
Such a
Such
mess.
a mess.
I know, it was messy. And I was exhausting being his nursemaid, changing bandages twice a day, putting new oils, gooping it all up just right because it was really tender. And we found the magic combination, so if anyone out there is dealing with a burn, I can tell you exactly what to use. But anyways, most of the time when we share oils, it has to do with minor and kind of annoying health issues, like here's lavender for a bug bite, or melaleuca for a diaper rash, or wintergreen for a sore joint. Like it's simple things like that. But because I know oils can be bigger and deeper, I am motivated to share whenever I get the courage and the time to share. I do. Me neither. And because of that passion, just like that, it naturally rolls into sharing with other people. So I wanted to kind of cover some easy ways for you to share oils with people that you love, so that you can create blessings for them, like you've heard tonight. So you guys have little sheets that are all rolled up, and you're welcome to unroll them and make notes on them and anything that you'd like. I'll put it up here on the screen so you guys can see it, what it looks like. Basically, let's see. Oh, thanks for putting that together.
Okay, let's see. Hopefully,
So it's called the sampling flowchart.
Yes, and I'll put
a little more here.
here.
There we go. Yeah, a link will be good because you can't really read it from up here, but at least they can kind of get the gist of what it looks like.
Yeah, and it looks like it could be confusing, like a play-by-play, like a football play.
Yeah.
kind of chart.
Yeah.
I'll simplify it for you and give you 4 good steps, because we haven't always been able to be that detailed. Like this detail has come into our doTERRA business in the last year. When we first started, we were a lot more simple. So I'm telling you that it can work more simply, but I also want to give you some good tips so that you can see that if there's just some basic things happening in your oil sharing process, it'll go off better for you and for them. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, cool. So the very first thing that you need is you are welcome to open those, is they need, the person you're sharing oils with, they need openness. So maybe it's just like a friend of yours and you just want them to know how cool oils are, and you just want to, you can't think of something that's wrong in their life, something to fix, but you just want them to have them in their medicine cabinet. So if they're open, you can go there to that place with them and start teaching them. A lot of folks, like a sweet little old lady in my hometown, I asked her, and she said no several years in a row. And just recently, this last year, she was like, I think I would like to try some oils for my arthritis. So we use oils on her, and my point is, she really likes how they feel, but my point is, the need had to come first in order for her to desire to even give them a try.
Be open, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she had to be open, and so the owie, the pain, whatever, the hurt, the need had to come first. Does that make sense? So I realize as I'm sharing this, I'm sure that there's people watching this video that are like, how do I fix my son? And the answer is, sometimes our kids are not going to be open until there's a need to be open. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so starting with that foundation, knowing that everything we say and share with them comes out of a love and a hope they get better. The second step is they need a good oil experience. So I don't know how many people I've run into that are like, oh, my friend said I have a sleeping problem, and my friend said to use lavender just like this to sleep, and I used it just like that, and it didn't help me. And that's an unfortunate, bad first experience with oils, and because they didn't know any better, they never tried anything else, and that was it. Oils were out of their life, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important as you're sharing oils that you're keeping tabs on how things work for them, so that you can suggest other things, because we all know that use oils that essential oils, there will be an oil that will help, but you might not find it the first time. And your body chemistry is different than someone else's body chemistry, and you might need a slightly different oil or slightly different application method. So that's the kind of thing that you can teach someone in the very beginning if they know ahead of time. This might not be the first one, but I will not give up on you. This first one might not be the right one, but I will not give up on you until we have a good experience. Does that make sense to you guys? With a little bit of coaching like that, even if they have a lousy experience, like my husband put On Guard in his mouth after having a tooth pulled. And just so you know, clove is a declotter. What's the right word for that?
Anticoagulant.
Yeah, an anticoagulant. So it pulled his clot. Dissolved
dry
his clot.
socket.
Gave him dry socket.
I asked you about that last time when I had my tooth pulled, and you were like, "Yeah, don't do that." Okay.
Don't do that.
You know it works.
Yeah, exactly. So after a really like a night full of pain like that, you can imagine he didn't want to try oils again.
Yeah.
He's stuck with me, so of course he used oils again. But as you're sharing, just try with start with. Let me do this more Elise style here. According to your flow charts, Elise will tell you, use one problem, give them 1 or 2 samples, and follow up in a couple of days. So this is how most of the time it works. You share a sample with somebody, and you're like, oh, this might really help. And I will give them a little cute sample bottle with this reference guide with it.
There we go.
There we go. There's a real life one.
There's the size.
Ta-da!
Perfect.
There's some even little bittier ones.
I know, there's tiny cute ones here. And I'll give them this cute little reference guide that, like, just in case you're curious, and I'll even put a sticky note right inside. Like, if they are dealing with mastitis, I'm going to put a sticky note right here next to mastitis.
Oh.
And I'm going to
so
give
well
them a
for that.
sample of Citrus Bliss.
I survived.
You
mastitis
survived?
because of oils. My midwives
Me
were like,
too.
"Wait, what are you doing?" It was awesome.
It was awesome. Citrus Bliss. I'll give them a sample and I'll say, this is it. And they'll open the book and be like, oh, lead poisoning? Oh, low blood sugar? Oh, all the things that are on the same page, you know? And it'll pique interest and help them know that there's oils for lots of things, not just one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is how I give it to them, just like that. And I follow up in a day or 2. Now, most of the time, they don't know how cool oils are yet. So, like, it falls to the bottom of their purse and they forget about it. And in 2 days when I call, they're like, oh, right, I forgot about that. I could have been sleeping better last night, dang it. So I'll remind them to use it. They'll get it out of their purse. They'll put it next to their bed or in their bathroom or wherever they need to use it. And then the next time that I call, they're ready to tell me how it went for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why the flow chart has so many steps, because if you just like toss them that bottle one time, most of the time they're not going to use it or have a good experience, and that'll be the end of oils for them. Right? So in order to, if you can hear that there's multiple touches involved, that will give them the best experience, and then it'll be the best for your friendship. It'll be the best for you sharing oils, and they'll thank you for it later. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh shoot! I lost my
Your
notes.
notes.
I
saw you do that. I was like, well.
Well, okay. So there's a really good script for this on the top of your flow chart. Once you call them and they're like, "Oh yeah, I think that lavender did help me sleep," then is the perfect opportunity to invite them to learn more. Do you want to read the quote?
Let's see.
Yeah. If you think lavender is awesome, that is just the tip of the iceberg. I can't even tell you how many amazing things there are to help you with any health need. I have a class on Tuesday or Thursday, and I want you to come. Which works best for you?
Perfect. Thanks, Kristen. So there's always, like, the sooner that you get these things to flow together, the better. Obviously, it doesn't always work perfectly, like 2 days and then 2 weeks and then 2 weeks. So just do your best, do what makes sense, do what feels natural, so that you don't end up being that creepy essential oil lady, right? Because no one wants to be that guy. The last thing on my checklist is the question has to come eventually if they're ready to purchase oils. Like, you can teach someone so many good things and they can walk away going, wow, I learned so many things about oils. But if they don't have them in their house, that knowledge will never be applied. And so you can ask something as simple as, are you ready for a wholesale account? Do you think you want to purchase some oils to take home tonight? It can be like, if it's not in a class setting, even if it's just at home and you've been talking about oils, you can say, do you think you want to get some? That's like a super simple question. Do you think you want to get some? If you never ask these questions, chances are they never will buy. Does that make sense? Right. But if they've had a good oil experience first, sometimes you can't leave them before they're buying it from you. So that's why we start with a good oil experience. Let me check my notes again. A lot of people tend to get awkward when it comes to the sales part of doTERRA, especially if you're like, I don't want to do business, I just want to share oils with my friends. That's okay. You don't have to get awkward. If you need help, then you can call me, but just know, like, this is just like a good movie. This is just like your favorite brand of ice cream. This is just like anything else, like the best diaper rash cream. Anything else you would totally share with your friends.
Something you truly believe
great
in.
for that too, by the way.
That's right. Totally.
Yes, they do.
doTERRA's diaper rash cream is the best.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
I've made my own too. It's so good.
You can make your own and it is really good.
My son's rash will be gone in less than a day.
Woo.
Yep.
I'm like, whoa.
Seriously. Just like you would share that with a mommy who had diaper rash going on in her family, it's natural to share essential oils too. And if you don't want to do any of the sales part, you can be like, I'm going to call Rebecca. She'll talk to you. That's totally okay. And if you feel like, oh shoot, I screwed that one up because you're hearing me and you're like, I didn't do that right. I didn't do that right. There is always time to go back and start the conversations again. And who knows, maybe it's 5 years later, right, Kim? Maybe it's the right time for them now. So everything happens the way that it needs to.
Yep.
And Rebecca's been so patient with me. And it's the right time.
It's the right time.
That's right.
Bam. That's awesome.
See?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Don't give up on people.
Don't give up. If you can bravely instigate this kind of sampling flow in your life, you will be the vehicle for miracles to come into the lives of people you love. And if it sounds like I'm trying to sell you on sharing oils with people, I am trying to sell myself, because that's how crazy and busy homeschooling 5 kids can be. But I'm carving time out of that in order to share oils with people, because I've already blessed the lives of so many just by bringing oils to them. And I know that there are hundreds more out there who need essential oils, and so I'm not going to quit, even if my life is hairy sometimes. So if you would help me take up the cause and share with people, then I would love it, and I will help support you any way I can. Thanks so much for watching. If this is your last of the 7 classes, please do send me an email or a message so that I can get you your graduate certificate. Woohoo! Have a good night.